Do you want to customize your items in Dungeons and Dragons in new and unique ways that you've never thought of before? Well, this is my new gem socketing system that we have here for you, that you can take a mundane item that's completely basic and normal. Maybe it's tools, maybe it's a normal sword or whatever, and you can take a gem, inlay it into the item, and enchant it basically with some magical powers. Or you can take a pre-existing magic item that's already a magic item, already has its own cool magic stuff going on, and you can add to its magic, further customizing it the way you want. We're going to talk about how this system could look at your table, how to implement it, how it works, and the actual step-by-step process, a quick overview of that, and a little sneak peek into some of the big cool stuff you can do with it to really take it to the next level. So here we go. Let's implement this thing at your table. What would that look like? Do you even want to do something like that? Gem socketing could be a really cool NPC, and this is usually how I introduce stuff like this, unless a player really has and comes to me with some sort of like, oh, I want to be a backstory of a gem cutter that, and they have this whole thing that they want to come up with. Cool, I'll then take that, and then this system could have been born from something like that a player wants to do. But usually, from Dungeon Master perspective, I could put this into the world as a really cool NPC, similar to how Matt Mercer did in Critical Role with that tattoo turtle guy that could do tattoos and enchant your body with, oh, that's so cool, right? And he introduced that through this NPC, and then Jester wanted to start doing that, and one of the players started to want to learn how to do that. You can totally do this with this system as well. So introduce a really cool NPC of some kind that is a gem socketer. All the stuff, they have items that look very normal, but they're bedazzled with some sort of gems in some sort of cool way. Or maybe all the items in this shop look very normal, have no gems in them whatsoever. At the front counter is a huge amount of extremely bright and colorful gems, and all the items in the shop just have these blank spots, these little hollow holes that gems could sit in. Then players could lose their mind from customization of, I could have bracers with this gem, or a chest plate with this gem, or a necklace, or you get the idea. But this system is foolproof for Dungeon Masters, giving you the cost analysis, everything of how it's going to look for you to run as a Dungeon Master. Or if your players want to start dabbling into this, they totally can. Cut some gems, inlay some gems, and enchant some items. My homebrew bro, Purius, and I made this system alongside the enchanting system, and they work very similarly. So if you like the enchanting system from before, this is just a little bit more bedazzled flare gem version of it. So instead of getting paper and supplies to imbue a scroll with magic, this has very similar steps of getting a gem and cutting it a certain way, and then imbuing that gem with power and inlaying it into an item. Timeout. This system was made possible thanks to all the backers over on Kickstarter that backed the Alcanner's Almanac of all things. It was one of the stretch goals that we hit as y'all blew through so many stretch goals. So right now, in all Kickstarter backers inventory that backed the project that before the Kickstarter ended, you will have this system in your inbox right now. And I also added onto it for the DC playbooks that I give my patrons each month. I added on extra bonus stuff onto the whole thing, and you get the whole thing. So basically, if you're a Kickstarter backer or a patron this or next month, you will get this system automatically. But if you're not one of those things, then what are you doing? What you can support and join in the links down in the description, but it's also available on my website. But I do have a lot of big stuff around the corner for my patrons, for future Kickstarters that I'm going to be announcing here soon once we wrap up Alcanner's Almanac, because we are less than 2 months away from finishing Alcanner's Almanac, having the PDF ready, getting that out to you guys too. So check those links down in the description, because this is the last time to get a hardcover copy, because then that's over with. But there's the whole big picture. Let's dive into this gem cutting. All right, now to understand this process, it is 3 very simple steps. First, you have to prepare the gem. You start off with a raw gem. It has to have a high enough value to be able to do this thing. If you're wanting a super basic type of enchanted gem, this could be a very small or low quality gem, but you have to cut this thing to be able to get it in the right spot. Now, you as a Dungeon Master could choose to assign how hard this is or how rigorous this type of thing is. Maybe it's very simple, and all you need is just for it to be cut into a spot that is fittable onto an item. Or you could have some sort of arcane process be involved in this, with they have to almost like cut runes into the thing or at certain angles, and it really matters how it's cut and carved. You could even engrave runes into these diamonds if you want. I say diamond, but it really could be any gem, ruby, emerald, sapphire, whatever it is. And maybe that also heavily depends on what type of enchant the item gets, which we'll get to that in a second too. But basically, for the first step, you have a raw gem and you cut it into a cut gem, and there's step 1. Now for step 2, we got to imbue this gem, and this is the DC enchanting method here in action. I really do love this concept of how to enchant things. I have a whole video on enchanting. You can see that. I'll have that down in the description as well. There's a full PDF and system along with that too, if you're really wanting to get kind of enchanting crazy right now. But here's this table. This table is a lot of math and thought and sweat and tears have been put into this table to see this thing in action. But here it is. Imbuing values is how it works. Again, the 3 tiers, Wondrous, Heroic, and Legendary. We'll get to the gems value here in just a second. Remember that gems value table, but the activation threshold is what really matters for this certain part here, because in order to take this cut gem and imbue it with magic, you have to fill it up with magic to reach the activation threshold, right? Now, it's represented in an amount of gold, which you have to have an enchanter or some sort of magic specialist enchant and imbue this gem with this energy. But how does this work? I also have a chart. This is my favorite part here. The spell slot value. If you want to take this gem and imbue it with magic yourself, or you have an NPC doing it, if you want to have an activation threshold of, let's just say 100 gold for the sake of this example, here's the table. Cantrips take 1 gold off of this cost. First level spells take 5 gold off, and so on and so on. If you burn a 6th level spell slot, boom, it's enchanted, it's filled up to that 100 gold activation threshold, and it's good to go. You can now take it and socket it. But if you want bigger items, if you want bigger, badder things, something like 25,000 gold, that's a lot, right? It's going to take a lot of spells to be able to enchant this thing over time. So yes, you could have enchanters or your player characters burn 9th level spell slots to start hacking away 600 gold at a time, but this is enchanting, and you're trying to enchant and make a permanently massive legendary item. It's not going to be just one 9th level spell slot to be able to create an absolutely crazy legendary item. Get into it more in the enchanting video, but you can take this and have multiple people do it. The PC can help the NPC enchant it with the items you can do it once per long rest and enchant and imbue this thing, and eventually hitting that activation threshold. Now it's supercharged with energy, and we can go on to step 3, which is honestly the easiest step of all, because you have the same DCs as you did before, 10 for Wondrous all the way up to 20 for Legendary, and you socket the thing into the item you want it. Boom, there you go. Now my favorite part here is the gold aspect of this thing. So with this, I'm going to bring back that table that says gems value. This is the gems value, which represents the total at the end of the whole thing. At the end of everything said and done, the value of that enchanted gem being put onto that item. Now, this does not include the cost of whatever item that is being socketed to, but the process of having the gem and then cutting it and enchanting it and putting it on there, that is where this gems value cost comes from. And if you noticed, compared to the activation threshold, compared to the cost of the labor it took from the everything else has been worked out into perfect fourths. To use an easy number for an example here, let's say the gem's end total final value is 40,000 gold. The process in which they would take is 10,000 of that gold would be the gem's actual value. So you would need, in order to make this final product of this 40,000 gem, you would need a gem worth 10,000 gold. That would be 1/4 of that process. And then the process of cutting the gem, the materials required to do it, the description, all that kind of stuff that takes to do it would be worth 10,000 gold. So if the players did it themselves, they just save themselves 10,000 gold. If they pay an NPC to do it, it's 10,000 gold. You get this very simple, easily distributed thing here. And then the activation threshold we just talked about, how much magic it takes to fill it up, is again 10,000 gold, 1/4 of the total big picture. And then the final fourth, what do you think that's for? Profit. And that profit can be bypassed if you make it yourself once again, or it can be profited by the seller whenever you're doing this whole thing. And you as a dungeon master now know that this NPC, hypothetically selling this 40,000 item, it cost him literally $30,000 to do it technically. And I guess there's some labor part there in the center if you want to think about paying yourself. But you have $10,000 worth of wiggle room as far as profit goes, and you can kind of know how to negotiate from there. Now for a bonus sneak peek here into this full system, because that is what I just shared with you, the system of gem socketing and how you can do it yourself, and you can take it and run with it and make magic items, let your players be able to customize magic items. I can only imagine that shop and how cool it is. Throw that shop in front of your players, and I'm telling you, they're going to love it, and the amount of customization is going to blow their mind. So what you'll find in this PDF is entire gem systems for ability gems, different gems that modify ability scores, battle gems, critical gems, energy gems, protection, vision, so many different things and ways to handle these gems. But I'll give you one example here. Battle gems. Each of these different types of gems can be socketed, and depending on what it's socketed into, change the property of what this gem does. If you take a battle gem and you cut whatever gem into a battle gem, if you inlay it into armor or shields, it increases that armor or shields armor class by 1. If you take that same gem and instead put it into a weapon, it becomes a +1 weapon, adding +1 to your attack and damage rolls. If you then take it out and put it into rings or brass knuckles. Yes, I'm trying to show some love to those monks out there. But if you put it into a ring or anything like that, it increases your unarmed strikes, the whole monk thing, or your spell attacks by +1 and increases the damage dealt by +1. So now this gem is enchanting your ring that helps you enchant your magic. What would happen if you took a battle gem and socketed it into a pair of boots or into climbing gear or something else? I would love to see what different kind of gems and thoughts and hopefully sparks of inspiration you've gotten from this video and from this system. And if you like all this type of stuff and you want to keep getting inspired and your games get inspired, buckle up for the DC playbooks, because they're going to be coming big with the patron stuff. We have some big things. We're going to be taking a huge poll very, very soon here, a community poll and a patron poll, to see what you guys want as far as content and different type of direction stuff that I want to do, because I want to help you guys in your games that you can use and stuff right now to be able to help your game sessions that are happening right now. Because in every single DC playbook, not only do you get something like this to be able to inspire and hopefully spark that creativity, like I'm saying, you also get magic items, character perks, monsters, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And speaking of patrons, the MVP for this video, most valuable patron, get it, is Darian Rodriguez. So big thank you to Darian and all these next level supporters over on Patreon that help me literally be able to do what I can do, keep the lights on, all that good stuff, and keep staying creative and thinking outside the box. Peace.